This tutorial will demonstrate how to run a report in PD360 that shows your rating based on each observation conducted with the 4-domain educator practice rubric. You can use this report to support your end-of-year self-reflection rating on the educator evaluation practice goal. To obtain this report, please log into PD360. Once in, click Observations. It will default to Observations of Me. Scroll down, and you will begin to see the observations that have been conducted on you. Click on the most current observation that has been conducted, and this screen will appear. Once you see this, go to the right corner and click on the icon that reads View Progress Report. Once you click that, the progress report beginning date and end date will appear. Make certain that the beginning date is before the start of the school year and that the end date captures the current date at which you're running the report. This will ensure that you've captured all of the observations that were conducted on you between the start of the school year and this current date. This report will appear when you run the report. The report has some information at the top that helps guide and show what it has to offer. These are the indicators here. So this is a report on Domain 2 and each Domain 2 indicator. The progress over time, which shows what rating you received for each observation that was conducted and scored within Domain 2. So the very first observation that was conducted, this educator received a developing, proficient, developing score. And then what this column does right here, current rating, is it shows your very last score, and you can see here is the developing, so it will represent that here. For the purpose of using this report for the end of year summative evaluation conference and the rating that goes along with the educator practice, you will not need to use the current rating column. And last, you have the average, which shows an average of all 5 of these combined. So if you were to average out all of these scores, you would get a 2.40 for 2A. And when you then add up each of the averages, you will get a combined average of 15.2. To find out what the overall average would be for Domain 2, you would just take the 15.2 and you would divide that by 5. There are 5 indicators here. So once you divide 15.2 by 5, it would be a 3.0, would be the overall average for Domain 2. It's just simply going off averages. And you can see that represented here in this table. This is the table that is in the Educator Evaluation and Development Plan. In Domain 2, you would put in your overall score, which we just determined. If you take an average of 15.2 and divide it by 5, it is a 3.04, which would be rounded down to a 3.0. You multiply that by its weighting, and the weighted score then becomes a 1.1. This goes into the equation to get your total or overall score for all 4 domains. That is the numeric way to calculate the scores here. If you are to go down or if you take a closer look at this data, you'll see that when you try to look at it for growth and trends in growth, there seems to be some inconsistencies. Performance at the developing level, performance at the proficient level, down back to the developing level. Not very consistent, back and forth. So the average score here appears to be most accurate, and you can kind of see that throughout the rest of the domain scoring for each indicator within Domain 2. No real significant trends of upward growth or downward growth, just simply scores at the developing or proficient level or proficient and exemplary level, in which the average score would appear to represent that very well. When you scroll down, you will get Domain 3 information. Same columns, so this is your average column, 16.4. When you look at all the averages across They are representative of the evaluations that have been conducted on this educator. But when you look at these observations, they tell a little bit of a different story than Domain 2. There does seem to be some growth over time, and the trend here looks to be very positive. You have some developing, and then proficient scores. Same here, you start at the developing, go up to proficient, then up to exemplary. So this educator is trending very positively and growing positively in Domain 3, in which I would recommend that we don't just take the averages here for face value. That when looking at this as a growth and development system, we want to acknowledge this growth. It is fortunate that this is very positive growth, so we're going to acknowledge it as such. And what you'll see here is when you have 3 indicators that show very consistent progress at that level over time, this 2.6 is no longer representative of the entire growth model. The growth here, really, this educator is performing at the level of 3. So this 2.6 would then become a 3. If you take the next set of data here, the 3, the 4, the 4, yes, we don't have 3 data points at 4, but if you look at the past 3 data points, they're at the proficient to exemplary range. So this 3.2, if you average those 3 out, would then become a 3.6. So you could increase that there. Again, looking at this scenario right here, you have a proficient, very solid proficient, going up to exemplary, and so far maintaining that, but we don't have that 3rd data point, so even if you take these last 3, that too would go up to a 3.6, just like the previous. And here, some very consistent exemplary performance, very consistent exemplary performance. These 2 right here could change to a 4.0 based on looking at this as a growth model. And that's what we want to ensure that we do. When we are seeing trends, positively or negatively, that we're looking at this as a model of performance, current performance on how you're doing, and growth. So we want to look at it that way. Therefore, when you recalculate these scores that I just mentioned, and you make this a 3.0, 3.6, 3.6, and 2 4.0s here, this 16.4 then becomes actually 18.2. And if you go back and look at right here, that would have been a 3.3, but because of the new weightings that we're putting in there, the new indicator, scores, it would become a 3.6, which then gets weighted out and multiplied by the 0.35 or 35%, which brings you to a 1.3 weighted score opposed to a 1.1 weighted score. Again, this increases your total or overall weighted score at the end. That is kind of looked at and considered as one measure toward your educator practice overall goal. So it's a 3.2 instead of a 3.0, which it would have been. Again, these using these numbers are just one solid indicator to support your educator practice. However, other evidence should be used to support your educator practice as well. Other evidence that is outlined in our educator evaluation system and development plan, such as lesson plans, planning with colleagues, and other areas that you and your evaluator may have determined would be measures that you would consider when providing an overall rating in this area. If you have any questions on this, please don't ever hesitate to give me a call or email Steve Farisi at any time. Thank you very much.